Belfast, Northern Ireland. The year is 1909.
Under a perpetual slate-grey sky, the wind whips through a forest of wood and iron scaffolding. It carries the acrid perfume of the industrial age, burnt coal, hot metal, and the sweat of thousands. Here, the Harland and Vauhammers. Every morning, a river of men flows through its gates, a sea of flat caps and downcast eyes, their hands stained with soot before the day's labor has even begun.
They have come to build something the world has never witnessed. It has a name, but the name means nothing yet. Titanic. For now, it is merely an idea, a ghost rendered in blueprints, a vision of numbers, measurements, and calculations. But within those pencil-traced lines lies an ambition of breathtaking scale. To dominate the ocean, to forge a vessel so vast, so powerful, so secure, that it would stand as mankind's definitive statement against the fury of the sea. The work is a slow, grinding, deafening ritual. Steel plates, thick as a man's fist, are bent and forged in fire. Each rivet, hammered home by hand, demands precision, strength, and sacrifice. The days bleed one into the next, a relentless cacophony of foremen's shouts and the piercing hiss of steam. And slowly, frame by frame, plate by plate, the Titanic rises from the mud, an artificial mountain challenging the heavens. Whispers turn to headlines. Newspapers begin to speak of it, their words painting a portrait of a technological miracle. With an almost religious pride, some begin to call it unsinkable. But this is a myth born on dry land. For now, the great ship is a hollow skeleton of steel ribs, still tethered to the earth. Then comes the day, the 31st of May, 1911. Before the eyes of an immense crowd, the hull is set loose. It slides into the water, not with a splash, but with a deep, resonant groan. A controlled avalanche of steel meeting its element for the first time. Sirens roar, and a wave of applause washes over the docks. The giant is born, but its heart does not yet beat. Over the ensuing months, the vessel is transformed from a shell into a floating palace. A city in miniature, waiting for its inhabitants, for the fire in its boilers, for the purpose of its maiden voyage. That purpose arrives with churning mass of humanity, drawn to the spectacle. There she is, immobile, immense, blotting out the horizon. Nearly 300 meters of black steel, her fore colossus. On the docks below, an entire world plays out its final, uncertain farewells. Families cling to one another in long embraces. There are smiles of adventure and tears of quiet desperation. Men, women, and children, each carrying a private hope aboard this public dream. A vessel poised not just for a journey across the water, but for its appointment with destiny. It was more than a ship. It was a promise, floating on the fragile surface between a known world and an unknowable future. They do not know what awaits them.
And yet, in this moment, every eye is fixed upon the same colossal vision. It is more than a ship. It is a promise, forged in riveted steel, a dream of a new century given form. The Titanic is preparing to meet the sea. The gangways descend, bridging the solid ground of the old world with the floating ambition of the new. Inspections commence, a meticulous ritual of passage. One by one, the passengers ascend. Some stride forward with the unthinking confidence of those for whom the world has always made way. Others pause every few feet, their gaze drawn upward along the sheer black cliff of the hull, a man-made mountain so vast it seems to bend the very sky above it. This is the precise moment the unknown opens its arms to an age of gilded certainty.
To cross the threshold is to enter another reality. No one, not the seasoned traveler nor the hopeful emigrant, is truly prepared for what lies within. Those bound for first class pass through wide, luminous corridors, their world framed by intricately carved English oak and gleaming brass. The walls glow with a soft internal light. The carpets, thick and fragrant with the scent of new wool, swallow the sound of every footstep. Each detail, from the light fixtures to the door handles, speaks of unshakable order, of immense, quiet wheat has miraculously been set afloat.
And then, the staircase.
The grand staircase. It is a masterpiece of joinery and aspiration, descending through the ship's core. At its apex, a magnificent dome of wrought iron and glass draws down the daylight, bathing the gilded surfaces in a celestial glow. There, perched atop the landing, a clock is flanked by two allegorical figures, honor and glory crowning time, a silent, carved testament to the age's unshakable self-belief. Every passenger who beholds it for the first time halts. A hush falls, a silence that feels almost religious, as they stand before this monument to their own era. The ship unfolds into a labyrinth of earthly delights. There is a reading room for the ladies, a library bound in mahogany, a smoking room veiled in plumes of rich cigar smoke for the gentlemen. A gymnasium is equipped with the latest mechanical wonders, electric camels and rowing machines. Elsewhere, a Turkish bath offers heated tranquility, a squash court echoes with the sharp retort of rubber on wood, and a swimming pool shimmers, the first of its kind on any ocean liner. One could live for days, for weeks, within this floating metropolis, and never once feel the want of solid earth.
For many, this opulence is beyond comprehension. But even on the lower decks, where the second and third class passengers make their way, the Titanic is a revelation. The cabins are orderly, immaculate, and brightly lit, a stark departure from the grim, airless holds of older vessels. Here, immigrant families find a dignity they had never been afforded. They arrange their few, precious belongings, their hands smoothing the crisp linens. Children laugh, their voices echoing in the clean steel corridors, while adults run their hands over the smooth metal walls and low ceilings, as if touching the tangible surface of a future they had scarcely dared to believe in.
Meanwhile, on the bridge, the crew moves with the silent precision of a well-oiled machine. At the center of it all stands Captain Edward Smith, a commanding figure with his immaculate uniform and flowing white beard. He is the White Star Line's most seasoned Commodore, and this voyage is to be his last, a final, triumphant crossing before a well-earned retirement. His presence is a comfort, an anchor of certainty for all aboard. They trust the man, and they trust his ship.
At precisely 12 o'clock, the steam whistles bellow, their deep voices rolling across the Southampton docks. This is the beginning. The mooring ropes, thick as a man's arm, are cast off and splash into the water. Deep below the surface, the immense propellers begin to churn, stirring the harbor into a milky froth. With an almost imperceptible slowness, the leviathan detaches from the quay. A roar goes up from the crowd left behind. A blizzard of waving hands and handkerchiefs fills the air. Tears trace paths through the coal dust on upturned faces. Some shout final farewells, others stand in stoic silence, watching until the great black hull and its 4 towering funnels disappear around a bend in the river.
The Titanic is officially on its journey. The destination is New York. But in this moment, suspended between land and the open sea, no one on board is thinking of the destination. They are consumed by the present, by the gentle thrum of the engines beneath their feet. They are a floating kingdom, perfect and complete, sailing not toward a new shore, but into eternity. The funnels expel dense black smoke, a testament to the immense power stirring within. Before the bow, the gray waves of the Solent part in reverence.
Sunlight, thin and pale, filters through a blanket of cloud. The open sea awaits at Queenstown in Ireland. From there, she will turn her face to the west and begin the crossing of the Atlantic. It is a journey of roughly 1 week, a passage of 4,005.
But no vessel before had ever command.
The ocean is a placid expanse catches the brilliant white of her superstructure. The decks slowly begin to fill with the sound of footsteps, the murmur of voices, the pulse of life. Passengers awaken in warm staterooms, attended to by an impeccable and almost invisible service. Some emerge at once, leaning against the rail to watch the endless sea. Others allow themselves to be cradled a while longer by the gentle, rhythmic sway of the leviathan. Time aboard this vessel seems suspended, governed by its own laws.
Within the gilded world of first class, life is an orchestrated ballet of privilege. Each morning, stewards in white gloves serve tea and coffee on fine china. Ladies gather for quiet conversation, parading the promenade deck in elegant coats against the sea air. The men retreat to the rich mahogany and leather of the smoking room to read the day's wireless bulletins, to speak of business and finance, to recount tales of their travels. There is a veneer of tranquility, a profound security built on opulence and the unshakable belief that nothing could ever go wrong. Every meal is a ritual. The menus, written in French, present a procession of sophisticated dishes, oysters and consommes, fillets and delicate pastries. The tables are illuminated by discreet lamps, the crystal glasses chime with a delicate ring, and the silence is punctuated only by the soft notes of a grand piano. It is a scene that feels eternal, a perfect fragment from a perfect world. Deeper in the heart of the ship, in second class, life is simpler, yet serene. The cabins are comfortable, the meals plentiful, the atmosphere more familiar. Here, passengers play cards, they write letters home, they stroll beneath the stars. There is less formality, but no less hope. For many, this voyage is the very symbol of a better future taking shape. And further down still, in the ship's great belly, is third class. Here, the laughter is louder. Here, meals are taken together at long communal tables. Here, songs are sung in a dozen different languages: Irish, Italian, Swedish, German. All are mingled together, a tapestry of cultures united by the same powerful anticipation. Children run along the corridors, their parents speaking in low tones, clutching the brittle paper talismans of their lives. Documents, photographs, memories. These are the people who have left everything behind, who have packed their entire existence into a single suitcase, who look toward America as one might look upon a mirage in the desert.
And all around them is the sea, immense, silent, cold. By day, the water is a sheet of hammered silver beneath the sun. By night, it vanishes into an impossible darkness, becoming a black mirror that reflects the cold, distant light of the stars. The Titanic pushes onward, unimpeded, powerful, gigantic. No one speaks of danger. No one harbors any fear. It is a world suspended between two continents, a fleeting kingdom of steel and steam, floating upon a profound and patient darkness.
She is a vessel of superlatives. Too large, too new, too perfect. A floating palace built as a monument to an age of certainty. Yet, in the quiet hum of the Marconi room, a ghostly chorus intrudes upon the self-assurance. Every night, the ether crackles with messages, with warnings, with sightings. Icebergs, they say, lie scatter canvas of unbroken blue, the sea a tranquil servant. On the bridge, Captain Edward Smith, a man at the pinnacle of a long career, holds the course steady. The great ship is not merely a promise of luxury, but of power. The speed increases,
there is a quiet ambition to arrive in New York ahead of schedule, to prove that this titan of the seas is not only the safest, but also the swiftest. With each passing day, the massive propellers churn the Atlantic faster, a rhythmic heartbeat of progress. And with each turn, confidence deepens into a state of serene invincibility. No one can imagine that far out in the cold expanse of the North Atlantic, something else is moving to its own ancient, silent rhythm. An obstacle being prepared by nature itself, invisible, indifferent, and utterly inevitable.
The 14th of April, 1912. It is a Sunday. For 4 days, the Titanic has commanded the open ocean, and on this day, the sea is calm, unnaturally calm. The waves seem to have vanished, leaving the Atlantic a vast, dark sheet of polished glass. As the sun descends, it paints the horizon in fleeting shades of orange and violet, a spectacle of profound beauty. Passengers gather on the promenade decks to witness it. Some capture the moment with their cameras, others simply stand in silence, mesmerized by the sheer tranquility of their dominion over the deep. But those who have spent their lives on the water know a different truth. They know that an ocean this still, this placid, can be more treacherous than any tempest. It is a mask.
As evening deepens into night, the temperature begins a sudden, precipitous fall. The air acquires a sharp, crystalline edge that bites at the skin. On deck, the sailors pull on heavier coats, their breath pluming in the frigid air. The sky above is a perfect void, cloudless and, tonight, moonless. There is only the profound, absolute dark, punctured by the cold, distant light of stars that seem to burn with an unusual intensity. Down in the wireless room, the warnings continue their relentless staccato rhythm. Ice spotted to the north, a field of it directly on their path. The telegraphists, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, are inundated. They are dutifully relaying a mountain of private messages for the wealthy passengers, stock market chatter, travel arrangements, simple greetings to loved ones ashore. The vital warnings from other ships are logged, some delivered to the bridge, but others? They are set aside, drowned in the sheer volume of commercial traffic. In that moment, the urgency is lost, a critical signal buried in the noise.
The Titanic does not slow. She surges forward at 22 knots, a velocity that speaks of unwavering purpose. At 9:30 in the evening, another message arrives from the liner Masaba, reporting heavy pack ice. At 10:55, the final, most explicit warning comes from the SS Californian, a ship that is stopped for the night, trapped by a vast ice field mere miles away. The message is received, but the captain is not on the bridge. The officer on watch acknowledges it, but the great behemoth does not deviate. She does not reduce her speed. She holds her course, a black silhouette of human pride, slicing through the dark as if nothing in the world could dare impede her. She is now entering the ice field, and no one on board knows it. No one feels it. The sea is so flat, so utterly without motion, that there is no sound of waves breaking against the ice. There is no telltale foam, no swell. There is only the immense, unending, and silent blackness.
High above, in the crow's nest, two lookouts, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, scan the horizon. Their eyes are raw from the piercing cold, their hands numb. They have no binoculars. In a fatal oversight, the key to the locker containing them was left behind in Southampton. They are forced to rely on the naked eye, peering into a disorienting void, searching for a shape, for anything to break the monotony of the star-dusted darkness. For minutes that stretch into an eternity, there is nothing. Then, for just a few seconds, an almost imperceptible shift in the fabric of the night. A patch of darkness that is somehow darker than the surrounding abyss. An ink blot on the velvet black. It grows with terrifying speed. Suddenly, a voice, raw with adrenaline and horror, shatters the frozen silence.
a cry that rips through the placid night air.
Iceberg! Right ahead!
It is more than a warning. It is the sound of an illusion being broken. The moment the 20th century's grandest dream collides with a reality as old as the ice itself.
On the bridge, suspended between a star-dusted sky and a sea of black glass, the watch officer makes his call. An order rings out into the frigid night air. Hard a starboard! The engine room telegraphs clatter, demanding, "Full astern!" Deep within the vessel's iron heart, the colossal propellers begin to slow, fighting against their own immense forward momentum as the rudder bites into the dark water. The Titanic, a behemoth of engineering, a moving city of steel and rivets, begins its ponderous, agonizing turn. But the laws of physics are unforgiving. It is too heavy, too fast, too close. At 11:40 in the evening, the steel giant meets the mountain of ice. There is no deafening crash, no violent explosion that shudders the ship from stem to stern. Instead, there is only a strange, almost subtle noise. A deep, grinding protest, a prolonged shudder that travels these. Some passengers do not notice at all. Others pause their conversations, tilting their heads at the unfamiliar vibration, a momentary curiosity in an evening of placid luxury. No one truly understands what has just transpired, but below, in the ship's lower decks, the truth is immediate and brutal. A sudden, violent jolt throws men from their bunks. Then comes the sound of water where no water should be. It seeps in at first, a cold, viscous tide rising from the floor plates. It pours through the gash in the hull, invading the corridors not with a roar, but with the steady, relentless pressure of an invisible beast. In the forward boiler rooms and cargo holds, the crew members, stokers, trimmers, engineers, exchange glances of pure dread. Something is profoundly wrong. They run, they shout, they wrestle with valves and watertight doors, but the Atlantic Ocean is faster.
Captain Smith is roused from his sleep. He ascends to the bridge, the grim reality of the situation dawning with every report. The ship's creator, Thomas Andrews, is summoned from his stateroom. Together, they descend into the wounded belly of the vessel they had both believed invincible. The scene that greets them is a death sentence written in flooding compartments. The damage is not a single puncture, but a series of gashes stretching nearly 300 feet. 5 of the ship's 16 watertight sections are breached.
The design was a marvel of safety. The Titanic could stay afloat with 2 compartments flooded. It could even survive with 3, or, in the most extreme of circumstances, 4. But 5. 5 was the impossible number. The verdict, delivered by Andrews in the cold, mechanical space of the mailroom, is devoid of emotion, a simple statement of engineering fact. The ship will founder. Not in minutes, but in a matter of hours. It is a mathematical certainty. And still, on the decks above, the illusion of safety holds. This vessel was built to withstand anything the ocean could throw at it. The iceberg. The forward boilers are extinguished with a great hiss of steam, plunging the bow sections into darkness. The pumps engage, fighting a battle they cannot win. The ship's list to starboard is, for now, almost imperceptible. But minute by agonizing minute, it grows. The captain's orders are finally given. Rouse the crew, uncover the lifeboats, begin the evacuation. But here, a second, more terrible truth emerges. One born not of steel and ice, but of hubris and regulation. On board are more than 2,200 souls. The lifeboats, in a tragic compliance with outdated laws, can carry only 1,178. Less than half of those aboard can be saved. Disbelief is the first reaction. Many passengers, awakened and told to don life vests, think it a drill. Some laugh, making jokes about the cold. In the first-class cabins, men and women calmly pull on evening wear beneath their clumsy cork jackets, convinced they will soon be returning to the warmth. The very idea that the Titanic could sink is an absurdity. The first lifeboats are lowered, many of them half empty. In the stark, freezing night, the brightly lit ship still appears a bastion of strength and security. To leave its solid decks for a small wooden boat in the immense dark ocean seems the greater risk. Why abandon the unsinkable ship?
To quell the rising murmur of fear, the orchestra assembles on the boat deck. With frozen fingers, they begin to play. Their music is a fragile, defiant act of order against encroaching chaos, a final offering of grace as the world tilts beneath their feet.
But in the third-class decks and steerage, far below, fear has already turned to pandemonium. Corridors flood. Gates designed to keep the classes separate now become barriers to escape. Families are torn apart in the desperate surge towards the upper decks, their cries for help lost in the groaning of the dying ship. The great vessel was no longer a monument to human ambition. It was a gravestone, slowly tilting towards the abyss, a final, silent testament to the unforgiving laws of physics and the profound cost of believing our own legends.
In the face of overwhelming force, there is a final, brutal accounting. Some will endure, most will not. The equilibrium is broken. A gradual, sickening tilt becomes a declaration of defeat, the bow dipping low, surrendering to the crushing weight of the Atlantic. On deck, a rising murmur of concern explodes into a symphony of screams. The water is no longer a distant threat. It is an invading force, consuming corridors and grand dining halls, reclaiming everything. With the lifeboats nearly all gone, hundreds are left stranded, staring into the abyss from the deck of a dying giant. Slowly, inexorably, the stern begins to rise. The Titanic ceases to be a ship. It morphs into a fractured skeletal monster, suspended between a star-filled sky and the fathomless black water. The deck, once a promenade of elegance, is now a near-vertical wall of steel and wood. Those left aboard scramble upward, clawing for purchase. Some slip, their bodies tumbling down the precipice, striking metal fixtures in a sickening percussion. Others cling to railings with what little strength remains, but their time has expired.
At 18 minutes past 2 in the middle of stop, but the roar of a collapsing city. A deafening, grinding cacophony as the Titanic, under impossible strain, breaks in two. Steel contorts, beams shear.
The forward section, already flooded, plunges immediately, sucked into the depths. The stern, however, hangs there for a few terrible seconds, motionless against the sky. Then, it too begins its final descent, first with a slow, almost graceful surrender, then accelerating into a violent plunge. Its three colossal propellers lift one last time towards the heavens, then vanish, dragged down into the maelstrom. In the space of 3 minutes, the largest moving object ever created by man is erased from the world.
And then, silence. An immense, profound silence on an impossibly still ocean, broken only by the fading cries of over 1,500 souls scattered in the dark. When dawn finally broke, the sea was calm, serene. Where the great liner had been, there was nothing. Only a floating graveyard of debris, splintered wood, unclaimed luggage, and the silent, frozen bodies of the lost. Hours later, the rescue ship Carpathia arrived to this scene of devastation. Slowly, one by one, the living were hoisted aboard. 705 souls, trembling, mute with shock and cold. The world awoke to an impossible truth. The unsinkable had been sunk. From that day forward, the name Titanic would no longer be a monument to ambition, but a testament to humility.
a silent, perpetual lesson resting in the abyssal dark, where the hubris of man meets the patience of the sea.